1064.
This is Public Pulse, your information and conversation program, brought to you by Elias and Financial. You can voice your opinion by calling 672-KROE. That's 672-5763. Now, your host for Public Pulse, Floyd Whiting.
Good morning and welcome to Public Pulse. Now, the Wyoming Game and Fish Department reports that they verified the presence of Asian clams, an aquatic invasive species, in Glendo Reservoir. Game and Fish confirmed the discovery in early September. Asian clams have been found in Wyoming before, identified in nearby Guernsey Reservoir in 2019 and the North Platte River in 2014. In response to the confirmation of zebra mussels being present in Pactola Reservoir over in South Dakota, the Wyoming Game and Fish changed their protocols for watercraft inspections at two popular Wyoming boating locations to protect waters from AIS at both Keyhole and Glendo State Parks. All watercraft will be inspected at the boat ramp before launching. Inspection hours will be 7 a.m. to 5 p.m., and use of the boat ramp is restricted from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Launching without an inspection is prohibited. Joining me this morning to talk about the AIS problem and what it means for the Cowboy State is Wyoming Game and Fish Sheridan Region AIS Specialist, Reed Moore. Good morning, Reed.
Good morning, Floyd.
Now, how long have you been with the Game and Fish?
So I've worked for Game and Fish since 2015 on several contracts, and for the last few years now I've been the AIS Specialist here in Sheridan.
Now, what inspired you to join the Game and Fish in the first place?
So I grew up in Wyoming. I really liked being outdoors, hunting and fishing, and once I got to school, got to college, kind of wasn't sure what I was going to do, and a couple of years in decided I really wanted to be able to be out in the field to work, and so I just got a degree in biology, and then started applying for different jobs in Game and Fish, and have been lucky enough to be able to get this one here in Sheridan.
You didn't mind being out in the cold, humping up a hill?
No.
Yeah. See, I went the other way. I like the comfort of a nice closed-in office space.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely days like that where it's good to be able to be in the office, but I definitely like being outside most of my time.
Yeah. Do you guys now, as the AIS specialist, what's your typical day look like?
So the biggest responsibility with my position is the AIS check station. So those boat inspections we do around the state. So I supervise the Sheridan region, which has check stations on the South Dakota border, here in Sheridan at the rest area, and then at Keyhole and Lake DeSmet. We have people that work at all those locations. And so the majority of my year is spent on preparing and planning for those. And then a large part of it, once those are up and operating, is sampling. I'm doing monitoring at all of our waters. We have different priorities for different waters. And so some are sampled a couple of times a year, some are sampled once a year, and some are sampled once in a while when we get to them, just depending on how much use there is at those and how easy they are to access.
Yeah, and we'll talk about just exactly what sampling entails in a moment. How long have you been the AIS specialist again?
So I'm finishing up my fourth year.
And why take this particular duty?
So I really like the aspect where there's a lot of public interaction, so we get to interact with the public. A lot of those boat inspections are outreach where we're really trying to get the public on board with our message of clean, drain, dry. But there's also a big biological component of doing the sampling and monitoring on these waters, and so it's a good mix of both kind of public interaction as well as in the field doing the biology.
Doing the science itself.
Yep.
What would you say fascinated you most about biology? What really inspired you to go into that science?
I just think how everything in an ecosystem interacts, kind of that ecosystem and the web of life, of how complex that is, but how resilient to change, and how things can be brought in and everything keeps working in ecosystems out in nature. Just kind of that complex interaction of all the species that are out there.
And how quickly that can be broken, right?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And that's what we're here to discuss now. Asian clams. What do they mean for Glendo? This is exactly what we're talking about, a break in the ecological chain.
Yeah, so Asian clams, they're an invasive species. They're not the highest concern we have in the state. Things like zebra mussels, quagga mussels, and probably Asian carp are our biggest threats to actually the freshwater ecosystem there in that fishery. But Asian clams are going to do what all invasive species do. They're going to reproduce really well. They're going to outcompete native species, and so they're going to have some direct competition for other mollusks we have in places like Glendo. They also, Asian clams were identified in Keyhole in 2017. So we have them in a few places around the state, and we haven't seen any major impacts. They definitely are there, and they're reproducing. They're starting to grow. We see them. And so when you have a new species introduced, you don't ever know exactly how they're going to interact with that ecosystem. Every ecosystem in the lake is different. And so at Glendo, they'll be tying up some of that biomass at the bottom of the food chain, which leaves less of it available for all the other organisms there. But it's really not known the exact impacts that we'll see at Glendo, just with some places they do way better than others, where they get along better with our native species, you could say. But in other places, they just completely take over. And so time will only tell what exactly that looks like, but it's not going to make anything there better.
Yeah, yeah. What did it feel like the day that the confirmation came on that? Were you just disappointed, upset?
Yeah, it's disappointing to see that we continue to see these species spread. We've had boat inspections now for 12 years, and the biggest carrier of AIS is boaters, and so it tells me that we're not having boaters clean, drain, and dry their watercraft when they go from place to place. And so it is disappointing to see. Hopefully it doesn't cause any major problems down there. We've seen that in other places, Keyhole and Guernsey, where they're there, but they're not causing major problems like you see in some places in the southeast part of the United States. There's definitely bigger problems from Asian clams there, but we haven't seemed to be seeing those here.
You know, every time I go out to Lake DeSmet, it always surprises me how clear that water is. But then it reminds me, you know, if an AIS were to get into DeSmet, how devastating that could be. Because the murky kind of water that we look into in a lot of lakes in the state, that's little microorganisms that kind of feed the rest of the food chain. If you have super clear water, you don't have an abundance of that food source. And so I often wonder, you know, how devastating it would be. Like DeSmet being as clear as it is, there can't be that much in that water.
There's definitely more than you would think in Lake DeSmet. So the base of that food chain for the fishery is the plankton. And so that's not as much the murkiness that we see in the water. That plays some aspect into that, but the bigger aspect is actually like algae and things like that. That's what's creating that color. And with Lake DeSmet being as cold as it is all year, that's part of why it stays as clear as it is.
Oh, really? Fascinating.
Yeah, just so you don't get as much of that algae and more vegetative growth that keeps that water clear. But there is plankton in all those reservoirs, and I don't know exactly the amount of plankton in all those reservoirs. They're microscopic, you know, they're really small, hard to see, some of them. And that's what most of the AIS that we're worried about in our lakes are doing, is they're filtering all that out and then tying that up in themselves. And so that biomass then isn't available for the rest of the fish. And specifically the sport fish, the guys are wanting to go out there and catch.
Yeah, exactly. Everything starts at the smallest organism, doesn't it?
Yep.
And that's one of the things about the ecosystem. You remove one link out of that chain and it's broken. Now, these new boating restrictions went into effect on October 5th. What exactly has changed? Just the time and where you can launch?
Yeah, so at both Glendo and Keyhole State Park, only one ramp is open. So for folks heading to Glendo, that's Whiskey Gulch. For folks heading to Keyhole, that is in Pine Haven at the Coulter Bay area. And so it's the Coulter Bay ramp in the town of Pine Haven. And so with that, there's also hours that boat ramp is open. We do inspections only from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then boats can continue coming off from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m., where we can do exit inspections to speed the process up as folks come back in, but then we can make sure no one else launches in that same time frame.
Yeah, and you know, when we talk about AIS, a lot of times we're worried about something coming in from out of state, right? So people, maybe they go boat in Montana, maybe they go boat in one of the Dakotas, and they come home and they think, you know, well, I need to get inspected because I left this state. What a lot of folks don't know is it's just as important going from one body of water to another, let's say Keyhole to DeSmet, we don't want to transfer those Asian clams from that point to another point within the state itself. And so I've often wondered, if I should be putting more precedence on that within like news stories and things like that you guys send me, because that's just as much of a concern, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. So the one thing that the species we're most concerned with are quagga and zebra mussels. So they're both in the Dreisseniid family, Dreisseniid mussels. And that's why our big focus is on boats coming from out of state, because they have much higher impacts. They actually have bissel threads that allow them to attach to hard surfaces. And so they would actually attach to watercraft, attach to infrastructure. They can clog power plant and water treatment facility pipes completely off because they'll attach to each other and just create big blocks of themselves where they block off the water flow in facilities. And so that's the biggest concern we have. And a lot of our protocols are set up to make sure we're keeping those out of the state. They're really what prompted the AIS program. And then there's obviously other AIS we're worried about. And unfortunately, we have some of those in the state. And so to make sure we're not spreading those within the state, boaters need to make sure they're keeping their boat clean, drained, and dry. Anytime you leave a water and you're going somewhere else, like whether it's even things like diseases, vegetation, Asian clams, all these other AIS that we have, there's stuff in waters that shouldn't be in other waters, and we don't really know what's going to happen there. There could be a disease in Keyhole that could go to Lake DeSmet and wipe out lots of fish there. Vegetation can cause problems where vegetation could be introduced into a place where it just does really well, whether it's one of our listed AIS or not. So the big thing in terms of moving from water to waters, we don't want to move anything from one water to another, whether that is organisms themselves or standing water, because a lot of these things reproduce and their juveniles are microscopic, so we can't even see them in the water.
It might look like a little puddle of clear water to you, but it is an entire pocketed ecosystem with these microscopic things that grow into an absolute menace. And I'm glad you brought up vegetation, because that's one thing. We have invasive species of the vegetation style as well, don't we?
Yeah.
Here within the state. And those things, they can cover a lake bottom quick, really quick, and completely change the ecosystem within your lake. Now, we talk about zebra mussels. We talk about the type of damage that they can do. I've often read in a lot of the reports that I get from the Wyoming Game and Fish that there are emergency protocols that Game and Fish will enact should zebra mussels be discovered. What are those, or even just an example of an emergency protocol that we're ready to fire up if we find one of those?
So actually, this response that we had from Pactola, where we put these effective restrictions at Keyhole and Glendale right now, those are kind of the reverse of the rapid response plans. That's the emergency plans we wrote. So there's rapid response plans for waters around the state. In our area, that includes Lake DeSmet and Keyhole. And so the general basis of those is if we get zebra mussels out of water in Wyoming so that they don't spread to other waters, we're going to inspect and decontaminate the boats going off of that water. And so kind of the process of our check station would flip around, and it would go from inspecting boats before they launch to we'd be inspecting all the boats as they were leaving to make sure they weren't taking AIS with them as they left. And so to get that started, there's going to be a temporary closure of reservoirs while we can get staffing there from around the state to be able to man those stations. And then boats are going to have to stop as they leave instead of stop as they come in. And so there's probably going to be some hours restrictions, just like we did with this, where we're going to have to follow more the sunrise and sunset, where we're not going to be able to be open 24/7. And so boats are only going to be able to access the water similar to what they can right now, where there's going to be restrictions on when you can launch, and then the boat ramp will close at the end of the day, so that we can make sure we're not letting AIS leave that water body. And so if we get zebra and quagga mussels, we really want to contain it to just that water body. And so our inspection process would shift, and we'd just start inspecting everyone as they left.
I think about like Memorial Day weekend or the 4th of July, with all the boats that go in and off of the waters. And my unit used to actually drill down in Rock Springs and down at Flaming Gorge. We'd get out there, and there'd be, dozens, if not hundreds, of individuals out there with their boats on these busy weekends. And so I can only imagine what it looks like at one of these inspection stations if we had to impose those restrictions going in, coming out, Do you have a system in place where you could say, all right, I've got this many staff on standby, I've got this many stations ready to fire up in this location, and you could get that put up seemingly overnight?
Definitely wouldn't be happening overnight. A lot of the staff, just with how we're staffed for what we operate at right now. And like the plan for Keyhole would require like 14 inspectors to be working for us, which currently right now we have 2 that work at Keyhole. And so kind of that short term, the response for the first year is we would get resources from within Game and Fish. And so probably fish biologists and other technicians from around the state would be coming to whatever reservoir that is that's positive to allow us to be able to operate those hours, to allow folks to still be able to get out and recreate on the water.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, man, I could only imagine what the backup would look like. All right. Waiting for your chance to get in there and get inspected. Now, before I change subjects here, we go to a break. Real quick, I told folks who would get to it. What is AIS sampling? How do you do that? What is that?
So there's several different things with these reservoirs that we do, as well as flowing waters. One of the big things we're looking for is actually adult organisms. And so we do shoreline surveys where we go and we are looking under rocks. We're using nets to stir up the ground and catch anything that would float downstream into that net so we can look through it. When we do that, we see lots of native species, and we're able to get an idea of what native species we're seeing there, whether that's physa snails or macroinvertebrates, things like mayflies and stoneflies, as well as in an unfortunate case where we do find AIS, we're able to find those that way. But then in reservoirs, we do plankton tows, and so what we're using is a net to filter water to concentrate the sample so we can sample a higher volume of water and still be able to send that to a lab to be analyzed for the microscopic juveniles called veligers. And so both dreissynid mussels, the quagga and zebra mussels, and then Asian clams, when they reproduce, their juveniles are free floating in the water at the beginning of that, and so they float in the water until they lose their buoyancy and they settle to the bottom. In the case of zebra and quagga mussels, they then start growing byssal threads, and so they start permanently attaching to things. Asian clams are more similar to our native species and what you'd think of as a normal clam, where it's just a bivalve that falls and it's on the bottom of the
kind of free flowing.
Just down in the sediment. And so we're sampling that water, looking for those juveniles, and then that gets sent to a lab either in Montana or Colorado, and they analyze it under a microscope. And so that's the 2 aspects that we spend the most time doing, as well as then trying to sample vegetation, looking to see what vegetation we're seeing, if it's native, if it's an invasive species, because in our region we have curly pondweed both at Keyhole and Lake DeSmet, and so we want to make sure that's not being established in other places as well. Or if it is, we know about it so we can inform the public so they can really be on the lookout to make sure they're not transporting it from that new place elsewhere.
Now, when we talk about transporting, let's talk about what I should do to my boat before I head into a water. What do I need to look at? And maybe it's even better if I say, what should I do with my boat when I come off of the water?
That's definitely when you want to do it. So coming off the water, not only is it the law in Wyoming, but it's best practice when you come off the water anywhere, whether it's the law or not, make sure you're not transporting any vegetation. So if you have vegetation hung up on the trailer or on the lower unit of your boat, pull that all off so that you're not transporting any of that. And then lower your motor so that all the water that's in there can drain out, because when you're out on the water, there's going to be a little residual water in there. Lower that all the way down, let the water all drain out. If you have a wakeboard boat that has a ballast system, drain all those tanks and bags. If you just have a fishing boat, pull your bilge plug, pull all your live well plugs, and let all that water drain out. If you plan on going to a different water next, it's best to leave those compartments open so that they can dry good. The easiest way to kill AIS is to dry them out. They need to be in the water to be living. Unfortunately, a lot of those can withstand being out of the water. Adult quagga and zebra mussels can live for up to 30 days out of the water in the right conditions. And so to go from a different water, make sure you're not risking taking anything with you. Open compartments up, dry everything out so that if your boat's completely clean, drained, and dried, the risk you have of transporting anything is greatly reduced.
All right. Make sure that you're doing that, folks, so that we can help prevent this problem from spreading. When we return, more with the Wyoming Game and Fish Department. This is Public Pulse on 930 KROE, 103.9 FM, Sheridan.
At Ais Financial, money management isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about dreams and opportunities, and more importantly, family. We'll take time to get to know you. Then we'll develop a unique wealth management plan that works hard, just like you. To learn more about who we are and what our wealth management advisors can do for you, visit Eliason Financial online or call 307-672-3010. Securities offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
With EBIA Hearing and Sound. Hearing well is living well, and we're here to help.
Not only are we able to provide premier hearing aid technology with Bluetooth and AI, but we can address the environment in which you are hearing.
Our sound consultation services tailor solutions to fit your needs. Whether at work, at church, or at home, if you're struggling to hear, we can help.
Call EBIA Hearing and Sound today, 674-8920. That's 674-8920.
Let's talk about tires. Think about the snowy, icy roads ahead, and now think about your current worn-out tires. How safe does that make you feel? Well, lucky for you, Midas Tire and Auto has their best tire sale all year going on now. Buy 3 tires, get 1 free. That's 25% off. And the best part is if you aren't ready to put your tires on right now, Midas will hold them until you're ready. How great is that? Don't miss the big tire sale going on now at Midas Tire and Auto on East Brundage Lane in Sheridan.
Got a chip or need a windshield repaired? Hi, I'm Cindy Wolf. We invite you to stop down at Novus Auto Glass on North Main Street in Sheridan. Jim and I were both born and raised in Sheridan and are proud to continue to run Novus Auto Glass as a locally owned business. Novus Auto Glass has certified technicians to put your windshield concerns at ease. We strive for professional quality work. Novus provides a lifetime and national warranties on all installations. Come down to 347 North Main Street or give us a call at Novus Auto Glass 307-672-0139 for an appointment.
This week on the Weekend Sports Wrap podcast, I went a steamy 1-3 on my wild card picks. I'll hold for applause. Thank you so much. So with that expertise, we talk a little bit about the divisional round coming up, as well as an NFL-filled weekend. Here's some highlights for you. The Broncos aren't good. Josh Allen has a literal cannon strapped to his arm. And Geno Smith, where did you put the real Geno Smith? That's what's on the Weekend Sports Wrap podcast this week. You can tune in wherever you get your podcasts.
The share it with a friend deal, even if that friend is yourself. Your McDonald's, your rules.
There's a deal for every friendship at McDonald's. Right now, buy a Big Mac, 10-piece chicken McNuggets, or a quarter pounder with cheese, and get the second one for just $1. And pair them with one of our frozen drinks, like the new Fanta Blue Raspberry. Price and participation may vary. Valid for product of equal or lesser value. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Good morning and welcome to Public Pulse. I'm Floyd Whiting. In the studio with me this morning is Wyoming Game and Fish Sheridan Region Ais Specialist Reed Moore. Now, we're talking about some restrictions that are on some of our bodies of water that are fairly local here in Wyoming. Reed, one more time, what are those restrictions and why have we imposed those?
All right, so just kind of a quick wrap up of that. So starting October 5th at both Keyhole and Glendo State Park, boats are only able to launch at one boat ramp at each location, Whiskey Gulch at Glendo and in Pine Haven at the Coulter Bay ramp at Keyhole. And so that's in response to mussel positive water in the Black Hills of South Dakota, Pactola Reservoir. It was discovered in July that there was zebra mussels there. And then in September, the marinas closed. And so all of the boats that were stored on that lake all summer long had to come off. And as they came off, there were zebra mussels attached to quite a few of those boats.
Really?
And so then as quick as we could get a plan together, we got a plan together to figure out how we could do inspections at the 2 most visited waters with boats from Pactola, which is Keyhole and Glendo, respectively. They're by far the 2 most trafficked waters with boats coming from South Dakota, as well as boats specifically from Pactola. And so to make sure we're not getting zebra mussels introduced in those 2 waters, the restrictions went into place. And so you can only launch from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then you have to have your boat off by 7 p.m. or the boat ramp gets closed and you wouldn't be able to retrieve that watercraft then until the next morning.
Now, when you got the call and they said, we got zebra mussels, man, did your legs just fire with energy? You wanted to get moving right then? Yeah,
to start with, it was kind of heart sinking, just like we didn't have mussels real close. The closest ones were in the middle of South Dakota in the Missouri River. And so going from there to Pactola is a huge jump where we had several hundred miles to our border with the closest mussels. And now all of a sudden they're 27 miles away.
Man.
And then after that, it was kind of like what can we do to make sure we're doing everything we can to make sure they're not getting into our state.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've managed to keep zebra mussels out so far. Is it every surrounding state has got them but us?
No, so Montana doesn't have any. Montana has had some scares where they've detected the veligers in the water, but populations didn't come from that. And so they've undergone multiple years, 3 years specifically. That's how long if there's a sample that comes back positive for the veligers, kind of western states together, the Pacific States Marine and Fisheries Commission has a protocol where that sampling happens for 3 years. And if you have no more positive hits, then we consider you to be free of zebra quagga mussels again. And so Montana had a couple of waters where that was the case. And so they've undergone all of that. So Montana is free of zebra and quagga mussels as well. But and then Idaho doesn't have any.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Lake Powell in Utah has them. Highline Reservoir in Colorado has them. Several reservoirs, with the closest being Pactola, has them in South Dakota. And then Nebraska has several waters with them as well.
And the cost. Just the cost. We've been discussing this problem and the steps of the Game and Fish, and these restrictions are there to prevent these little buggers from invading our waters and causing potentially millions of dollars in damage to infrastructure and an incalculable amount of damage to the ecosystem itself. Switching gears, hunting season is in full swing. Reed, as the Ais Specialist, how often do you actually get a chance to get up on that mountain?
So outside of my AIS work, where we're sampling up there and doing some of the work with my job specifically, I do get a chance to go up and help the wildlife guys. Check stations are a big time where our boat traffic has slowed down, our fisheries and sampling has slowed down, and so we're able to get out in the field and help those guys with check stations as well. This year, just with the timing, I've got some time off to go do some hunting myself, and so I'm not going to spend a lot of time at the check stations, but every year I do get to go spend some time out in the field and help them with different things.
What do you like to hunt?
So elk, I like hunting everything, elk, antelope, deer. I've got tags for everything this year again, so I'll be out in the field doing quite a bit of hunting this fall.
A sportsman in the red shirt. I think most of Game and Fish actually is sportsmen in some way, aren't they?
Oh, yeah, most of us are.
Yeah, taking care of the ecosystems and the environment that you're actually having fun in. Now, from what you know, has the department seen much come through yet?
So we definitely have people harvesting animals. We see animals come in with our big CWD sampling. We see those animals even come into the office, and so even in the office there's lots of times where this time of year there's not a lot of us in the office, and so I do CWD samples in our office.
So you're helping out with the CWD stuff. That's fantastic.
There's lots of us. We do a lot of working within the department where the wildlife guys help us do fisheries related things, and us fish guys help in the fall with their hunting check stations and taking CWD samples and doing all of that.
Now, real quick, tell me about check stations and what folks should know as they head out there.
So if you encounter a game check station while you're traveling to or from your hunting location, you need to make sure you stop. It's the law. You have to stop every time you pass it. Even if you haven't harvested an animal, that's the big thing. It doesn't matter if you've harvested an animal, that it's a hunter check station, and so anyone that's in the act of hunting needs to stop, whether they're headed to where they're hunting or headed back from where they're hunting. If you don't have anything, the stop's going to be quick. If you have something, personnel will record information and may try to harvest CWD samples, or if you're looking at getting that done, may do some of that to help with our disease monitoring.
Which is a really big deal. Tell me how hunters are helping with the tracking of chronic wasting disease.
So the easiest way for us to be able to track that is getting those samples from deer to see where on the ground they're actually are deer that are positive with CWD. And so hunters bringing their animals in or going out of their way to bring animals in to make sure we can get those samples and send them off, allow us to be able to get better data. The more samples we have, the better accuracy we have with prevalence data and knowing where that disease is present.
Tell me what a deer with CWD looks like.
So unfortunately, lots of sick deer look the same, just like us. Like if you have the flu, the cold, you're going to get lethargic. You're going to not be feeling real well. And so it's not always CWD. I don't know specifically that there's a telltale sign. Like there's lots of sick animals we get reports of that don't have CWD once they're tested or die that look like it. That's not the only thing that deer get sick from. There's lots of diseases that affect deer just like all other species. And so there's not a real
specific symptoms.
There's not just one thing that you're going to see and you're going to know that deer just has CWD. There's going to be a chance it has other things as well.
How do you guys test for that? When you take your sampling, you're looking for a lymph node?
Yep. So we're getting the lymph node. That's the first place that it's detectable, is the lymph node right at the back of right at the base of their skull. And so then we take those and they get sent to a lab in Laramie. And so the Game and Fish lab actually does all that. I don't know the specifics of how that's done. I know we send the lymph nodes there. They basically get pulverized and then they're looking for it that way. I don't know the specifics of that.
Right. Any other way that, however vets do it, right?
Yeah.
Now, have there been a lot of poaching reports this year?
I haven't heard of any, but every year it seems like we have some, so it wouldn't be surprising if there have been some.
Yeah. And now, if someone sees a poaching activity, what's the best thing that they can do?
So if you see a suspected violation in the field, don't confront the individual or group. Write down as much information as you can. A description of the people involved, a description of the vehicle, a location. If you can get a license plate number, that makes it really easy for our investigation to occur, where we can trace that easily, where it's not just a description of a vehicle. If we have a license plate, we can tie that directly to someone. Where and when the violation was taking place. Basically just be a really good witness. Get as much information as you can from what you're seeing. Don't confront them. You don't want to get involved. If they're breaking the law, who knows what they're going to view you as when you come into that situation. So call the Stop Poaching hotline, which is 877-WGFD-TIP. So Wyoming Game and Fish Department TIP, abbreviated out. It's operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then they can relay that information to the closest game warden to have them respond to that violation. Every year, many wildlife crimes are solved by the assistance of the public who witness something and report it. You can remain anonymous, just call and make anonymous tips. And every year we have cases that are closed from anonymous tips to the Stopping Poaching hotline.
And I would say just a reminder, folks, please don't dump your animal waste, your harvested waste, in some random bar ditch. We've got ways to get rid of that stuff. A lot of landfills here. Take that and get rid of it for you. Make sure that you're doing this right and somebody doesn't have to wake up to that smell in the morning.
So I'd also add, with the new CWD practice, if you take that out of the field, it has to be disposed of properly. And so you can get all that information on our website where there are CWD. In this area, we have a couple of dumpsters, but also landfills are able to take deer. And so going to our website, you'd be able to see the proper way to dispose of carcasses so that you're not increasing the spread of CWD.
That's right. That's one way to prevent the spread of that, and that is sweeping through the country like wildfire as well. Reed, I want to thank you for taking time out of your day, coming in here and updating us on everything that we've got to do to prevent AIS from getting in our waters. Thank you for everything that you do out there.
Thanks for taking the time and having me on today.
You got it. All right. When we come back, we're going to speak with the Caliph Shriners. This is Public Pulse on 930 KROE at 103.9 FM. Sheridan.
At Eliason Financial, money management isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about dreams and opportunities, and more importantly, family. We'll take time to get to know you. Then we'll develop a unique wealth management plan that works hard, just like you. To learn more about who we are and what our wealth management advisors can do for you, visit Eliason Financial online or call 307-672-3010. Securities offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
Champion Funeral Home is dedicated to providing compassionate and personalized service to your families. They provide support, personable care, and affordable prices to Sheridan and Johnson County and surrounding areas. Champion Funeral Home has been family-owned and operated since 1911. They will comfort you in your time of need and provide your family with a meaningful tribute to your loved one. Contact Champion Funeral Home at championfh.com or call 674-6369.
Are you wondering what your business is worth, or have you considered buying or selling a business? Contact me, Alicia Cox, Certified Valuation Professional at Harker Mellinger, to discuss how a business valuation can help you determine the proper values in gifting, estate planning, and the purchase or sale of your business. Harker Mellinger has has been providing professional valuation services since 1995. Schedule an appointment today to discuss how a business valuation can work for you. Parker Mellinger, located at 1811 South Sheridan Avenue in Sheridan.
Sheridan Orthopedic Associates continues its over 50-year tradition of surgical excellence in Northeast Wyoming and Southern Montana with the addition of Dr. Jory Wasserberger, a Wyoming native, and fellowship trained at the Mayo Clinic in Orthopedic Sports Medicine. Dr. Wasserberger joins a team of highly rated surgeons providing spine, sports, hand, hip, knee, and shoulder surgery, joint replacement, and more, including emergency care 24/7, 365 days a year. Visit us at SheridanOrtho.com to learn more.
Hey, hockey fans, your Sheridan Junior Hawks are back on the home ice as they begin a home-and-home series this weekend with the Gillette Wild. Game number 1, Friday night at the Whitney Rink at the M&M Center. Beat the rush and get there early. The Hawks take on the Wild. Gates open at 6:30. They drop the puck at 7:30. Admission is $10 for adults, $8 for seniors and students, and military. Kids 4 and under are free. Be part of the excitement with your Sheridan Junior Hawks at home on Friday night as they take on the Gillette Wild.
Is Wyoming Corporate Office your one-stop shop for everything you need for your Wyoming-based business, LLC, or corporation formulation? Yes. Service of process and mail forwarding services? Indeed. Fulfill the legal requirements for small businesses based in Wyoming? Absolutely. Wyoming Corporate Office provides the communication between your business and the state, so you don't have to. Learn more by visiting WyomingCorporateOffice.com today.
Good morning and welcome back to Public Pulse, brought to you by our friends out there at Ais Financial. I'm Floyd Whiting. For the second part of the show this morning, I am joined by Caliph Shriners, Joe Schwartz, and William Rather. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now, for those who may not know, who are the Shriners and what do you do?
Who are the Shriners? Well, that's a good question. Shriners are Masons, basically. They started back, we're in our 150th year this year as Shriners. Back in 1870, a bunch of Masons got together and decided to get an organization that had a little more fun, with a fun-based organization. And so they started the Shrine at that point in time. 1872 is when we started, so we're 150 years out this year.
1872. I don't think folks realize how old the Shriners are. The organization itself actually is.
Right.
I mean, it's been around a while.
It has been around a while, and then in 1922, 100 years ago, we started our philanthropy, the Shriners Hospital for Children. And that's been going on. We have 22 hospitals, one in Canada, one in Mexico, and 20 around the United States that we take care of children. With the changing in healthcare and everything, the hospitals are kind of downsizing a little bit, and they're offering more care in more places. They're putting clinics in more places. So it's not just the hospital area anymore that takes care of the kids. They're expanding out into other communities with their healthcare.
It helps get a little bit more availability so like with our Caliph in the Sheridan area, our primary hospital's in Salt Lake City, Utah. So with these outreach clinics, it's allowing them, I think there's one in Denver now, actually, if I remember right.
Yes.
It's a little bit more availability, a little bit easier travel. So if they're not requiring like the major surgeries or anything like that, they're able to go to these clinics, get their annual checkup, whatever, and then there's not as much travel involved. And then also with the hospitals and stuff, for any of the Shriner kids, like the kids that we sponsor that need these treatments, it's free of charge. There's no charge to the families as far as travel goes or the actual procedures that are involved. So,
wow. Now, if a family goes to this horrible, horrible event and they do have a child who's diagnosed with something, how do they become a sponsored?
You reach out to your local Shriner. I mean, we're very familiar and noticeable by the red fezzes that we wear. So, with Sheridan, this is the home base of Northern Wyoming Shriners is in Sheridan at the Caliph Temple. So it's pretty easy for us to contact, but there is these smaller communities. That's why we get out in parades a lot and stuff like that. You'll see us out in the funny cars, the clowns and everything and all that. But it's just, if you know someone that's a Shriner, 9 times out of 10, people are friends with Shriners and they don't know it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but it's a matter of getting in touch with the temple or getting in touch with a Shriner. Say if someone knew me or Bill, I've sponsored a few kids myself, and I mean, and we can help them get the ball rolling on it. And it's a lot easier than most people think to actually get the ball rolling on it. So,
and the temple, it's almost like right downtown, isn't it?
Yeah, it's over on West Logs.
Beautiful building with a beautiful statue out front.
Yeah.
I drove by it just the other day, as a matter of fact. Now, Bill, why did you join the Shriners initially?
Oh, initially, this was back about 45 years ago, I think, that we had a group in the Shrine, the Hillbilly Band, and I played guitar, and it was my dream to play in that Hillbilly Band. So that's why I joined the Shrine, to get into the Hillbilly Band.
To get into the band.
And I was in the band for a few years, and I was a young person at the time, and they were a lot older, and they kind of aged out. We haven't been able to get the Hillbilly Band going since. So
we're trying.
We're still
trying to throw the band back together, huh?
Yeah.
Now, Joe, what about you?
I am, as well as William here. I'm what's called a legacy. So my father was a Shriner. Both my uncles, my brother were all Shriners. My grandfather, my great uncle, my great grandfather on my mom's side. So with Caliph, I'm a fourth generation Caliph Shriner.
Wow.
So like I say, that's what's called legacy. So that's initially what started it. It was what my dad kind of wanted, what I wanted to do. It was a family tradition kind of. But as you know, once you get into it and you get involved with it, especially as a Shriner, if you get a chance to go to one of the hospitals, you see what we really do and all this work that we do, what the money's going to, and you meet these kids and they're absolutely incredible. I mean, these kids, I've met some of these younger kids and they're more mature, stronger than I could ever imagine to be when you see these kids and what they're going through. I mean, it's really really humbling experience.
I'll bet. And just makes all the effort worth it, just instantly.
Oh yeah, there's instant gratification when you see what our efforts really go to.
Now, if someone out there was thinking about, boy, I'd love to be a Shriner, what do they have to do?
If you want to be one, ask one. I mean, it's kind of the motto of the Masons, but that's the easiest way to go about it. First, you do have to be a third degree Freemason. So you'd have to join a Masonic lodge. Well, you'd have to petition a Masonic lodge. And then if your petition's accepted, you have to go through the first 3 degrees of Masonry, be raised to a Master Mason. And then at that point, you can petition the shrine, the local temple, whether it's Caliph or in the southern part of the state, Korean. And then basically go from there. You go through another initiation and pay your dues, and that's how it goes. Biggest influence I can say to anybody is, if you want to be a part of something a lot bigger than yourself, it's a great way to go. But you're not going to get anything out of it unless you're active. So
exactly.
I mean, you can go and just pay dues and just be a member, get to wear the fez, go to the events, whatever, or you can get active in it and actually get something out of it. Which, I mean, I don't know why anybody would pay those dues to not be able to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
And what do active members do in the course of a year?
So Bill and I were both clowns. Bill's actually a past potentate, which was Grand Poobah. So we just, I spend most of my summer parading, a lot of parades, YO Rodeo, Dayton, Hardin. We travel all over for it. Also, the fundraising is a huge part of being an active member. So you see us a lot. We do a lot of raffles. We do a lot of other types of fundraisers. Haunted houses, the kids' Christmas party, which we have coming up every year. That's actually a free event for the community. We invite everybody to come in for free. It's kind of our give back to the community. We bring the kids in. Santa Claus is there. The clowns are there. We tie balloons. They get to see Santa. We also provide a free lunch and stocking full of goodies for the kids. And like I say, that one's kind of our give back. But other than that, it's getting out in the community, kind of advertising our cause and trying to keep the temple alive, really.
Speaking of raising funds, we got the Tunnel of Terror coming up. Can you tell me about the Tunnel of Terror?
Well, before that, I wanted to mention that Joe and I are both clowns, but we do have, in Sheridan, we have 2 other units. We have a horse patrol unit, and we have an Oriental band unit. We used to have a brass band unit, but they again aged out, and we don't have a brass band anymore. And like say the hillbilly band is no more. But if you look back in our history, we've had a lot of other units too. And each of our clubs have some kind of a unit. They have some, like in Riverton, we have a calliope, and they have in Gillette and Newcastle, they have different go-kart type things that they use, and we're going to get a couple of those units, one from Cwd and one from Gillette. We think we're going to get over here for our parade we have coming up for our ceremonial.
How cool is that?
That's coming up, and we thought we'd met before we hit the Tunnel of Terror. I thought I'd mention a little bit about that parade. We've paraded twice a year for our ceremonials, probably every year since 1907 when Caleb started. And this year it's going to be changed a little bit. We're going to have a parade, but they are going to close off downtown, the street downtown for it for about 30 minutes. And so we wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that, and we will probably advertise it a little bit. It's going to be on the 22nd at 11 o'clock. We're going to have a parade down Main Street.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, and may have carts.
We'll have our carts and all of our units here in Sheridan.
All right, tell me about the Tunnel of Terror. When and where do I have to be to take part in this?
So the Tunnel of Terror, it's, God, I can't even tell you how many years we've been doing it now.
4 or 5.
4 or 5 since the Clowns have taken it over. The Daughters of the Nile did it before us, and we kind of took it over when it got a little bit big for them. But this year we're going to do it October 27th through the 29th, which is a Thursday, Friday, and a Saturday, which this year, traditionally we didn't like to do it on Halloween weekend because everybody that's a part of it on our end is all volunteers. So we usually like to leave Halloween weekend open for them to spend with their friends and family. But due to scheduling conflicts down at the temple, we kind of had to do it on Halloween weekend this year. So I think it'll be a great turnout. But basically, it's a haunted house, man. We bring them in, and we call it the Tunnel of Terror because we take them down into the catacombs of the shrine, if you will, which there's an actual tunnel system that used to be for the stage that was used for that. We can bring them all the way through the complete underbelly of the temple and then bring them back out. Lots of scares, lots of laughs on our end, but it's a really good time, and we influence everybody. If you can make it, definitely come out. This is primarily the Clowns. This is our big fundraiser for the year. So.
How much is it? I only got about 1 minute left.
Yeah.
How much is it for the Tunnel of Terror?
We charge $5 a person or $20 for a family. So if you get a group of 4 friends, pay $20, you're good.
And have a good scare down in the tunnels. All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for coming in, and thank you for doing everything that you guys do for us. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for having us, Floyd.
All right, you've been listening to Public Pulse on 930 KROE, 103.9 FM, Sheridan.
At Ais Financial, money management isn't just about dollars and cents. It's about dreams and opportunities, and more importantly, family. We'll take time to get to know you. Then we'll develop a unique wealth management plan that works hard, just like you. To learn more about who we are and what our wealth management advisors can do for you, visit Ais Financial online or call 307-672-3010. Securities offered through Royal Alliance Associates, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
Fall is here. Hi, Kurt Smith here for the Sheridan Commercial Company. You can't go wrong when you turn to the Sheridan Commercial Company for helpful supplies for fall projects like weather stripping, caulking, insulating, heat tape, finishing up any exterior painting and staining projects. Make sure to check all of your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, as well as checking your fire extinguishers. We're your locally owned hardware store and have been since 1892. The Sheridan Commercial Company at 303 Broadway. Open 7 days a week.
I'm here today with Candace Crane from Sheridan Honda and Powersports.
Tommy, hi. I have some exciting news.
Oh, tell me what?
Sheridan Honda has new cars on the lot.
Are they all-wheel drive?
Of course they are. We have 4 models with real-time all-wheel drive. The CR-V and HR-V have Honda's intelligent control system, which is great in inclement weather or rough terrain. And if you're wanting something a little bit more rugged, the Passport and Pilot have intelligent traction management with snow, sand, and mud mode.
Those are great options. Visit Sheridan Honda to pre-order or drive home in your new Honda today.
Mossholders Design Center is here to help you create a space that you'll love. If you're relocating, remodeling, or just refreshing your home, Mossholders' talented design team can help you through the process. With free in-home consultations, Mossholders will be able to find the furniture and finishing touches that work best with your space, your lifestyle, and your budget. So if you want to change the look of just one room or furnish an entire home, Mossholders designers can get it done. Mossholders, furniture is our passion.
As we enter the fall months, have you made that plan to market your business? Are you stuck? Confused on what to do? Hi, this is Bob Grammons, General Manager at Sheridan Media. Let us help you put a plan in place as we gear up for the holiday season. Sheridan Media can market your business on up to 9 different radio stations. We can place your print ad in front of nearly 18,000 households in Sheridan and Johnson County with the Country Bounty, or market your business worldwide through a variety of digital products that we offer. We can also place your ad on our 2 websites. Let our creative and experienced marketing team put a well-thought-out and professional, comprehensive marketing plan together to connect with your customers on multiple media platforms. No high pressure. Let's tell your story, whether locally or across the country. Call Sheridan Media today at 672-7421 or email sales@sheridanmedia.com and let us go to work for you.
From the Wyoming Corporate Office Studio on 103.9 FM and News Talk 930.
KROE, Sheridan.
The White House has a new strategy. On Lisa Brady, Fox News. It has just been released, aimed at advancing U.S. interests while pursuing a free and secure world. Fox's Jared Halpern is live at the White House.
The Biden administration's national security strategy calls on an investment in U.S. power and influence by building strong coalitions to address transnational challenges like climate change, food insecurity, and terrorism.
We need to set the rules of the road for the 21st century in critical areas, from emerging technologies in cyberspace to trade, economics, investment, and more.
The National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan says China represents the most consequential geopolitical challenge for the U.S., but adds the U.S. is not seeking to have competition tip over into confrontation or a new Cold War. Lisa.
Thanks, Jared. The president says there will be action on Saudi Arabia. He's facing bipartisan pressure after OPEC's cut in oil production.
When Americans are facing a crisis because of Putin, when we're paying more at the pump, our ally, someone who we have helped for decades, should be trying to help the American people.
California Democratic Congressman Ro Khanna co-sponsoring a bill that would pause U.S. arms sales to the Saudis for a year as the relationship is reevaluated. The fate of Florida school shooter Nicholas Cruz is now in the hands of a jury deciding whether he'll face life in prison or the death penalty for a 2018 massacre.
First-degree murder is a capital felony. The crimes of murder in the first degree.
Broward Circuit Judge Elizabeth Scherer reading the list of charges to jurors who would need a unanimous vote for capital punishment on at least one of the 17 murder counts. The defense says Cruz never received proper treatment for mental health-related issues. America is listening to Fox News.
Losing your family's home movies and photos would be devastating. That's why Legacy Box exists. To preserve your family's recorded moments digitally, ensuring they're safe forever. Think of the time and money your family invested to capture family vacations, birthdays, even your wedding. Recording a lifetime of memories was a commitment. Camcorders cost thousands, and cameras required film and development. Legacy Box is the final step to preserve your family's past. Thankfully, it doesn't require another big investment. Legacy Box is safe, simple, and affordable. Over 1 million families have trusted Legacy Box to convert their analog media to digital. You owe it to your family to safeguard your memories. Become your family's hero and save them before it's too late. For a limited time, Legacy Box is offering an exclusive discount when you go to legacybox.com/now. That's legacybox.com/now.
An effort to count midterm ballots by hand is rejected, at least for now, in one Arizona county.
There was a plan in Cochise County to hand count ballots for the 2022 midterm elections. Officials say following mistrust of the 2020 vote, the hand count would have been done alongside a machine count, though the county attorney tells the 3-member board of supervisors, including 2 Republicans, who are pushing for what they call a trusted vote, that they have no legal authority to do so. Arizona's Secretary of State is Katie Hobbs, a Democrat running for governor, who oversees state elections. Her office against hand counting, saying it comes with a host of potential problems and legal pitfalls. The board now asking the Arizona Attorney General, a Republican, to weigh in.
Fox's Jeff Manasso. The UN's nuclear watchdog chief just announcing he's on the way to Kyiv after talks with Russian officials on setting up a protection zone around a Russian-occupied nuclear plant in Ukraine. The company that runs the plant says Russian missile attacks have cut off all external power for the second time in 5 days, again raising the risk of a radiation disaster. The reactors were stopped earlier because of the war, but still require electricity to prevent overheating. Promising developments from a study involving human brain cells and rats.
Scientists at Stanford University injecting human brain cells into rats to better study brain development and diseases. The research builds upon previous work creating brain organoids, tiny structures resembling human organs. Scientists transplanted those organoids into 2 to 3 day old rats, a stage when brain connections are still forming. Researchers finding the organoids grew so that they eventually occupied a third of the hemisphere of the rat's brain where they were implanted. The team at Stanford is keeping hopeful that these early findings will help make breakthrough discoveries regarding brain development and disorders ranging from autism to schizophrenia.
Fox's Matt Napolitano. Stocks higher despite a bigger jump than expected in wholesale inflation. The Dow's up 165. And Lisa Brady, Fox News.
Football fans, before the Brock game on Friday night, we have a special Friday afternoon broadcast lined up for you over on 1410 AM and 106.9 FM KWYO. The undefeated second-ranked Tongue River Eagles will take the short trip over to Bighorn to take on crosstown rival, the 4th-ranked 5-1 Bighorn Rams, in a huge 2A Eastern Conference clash on the gridiron. And we will have all the action live for you Friday afternoon starting at 2 p.m. on 1410 AM and 106.9 FM KWYO.
The share it with a friend deal, even if that friend is yourself. Your McDonald's, your rules.
There's a deal for every friendship at McDonald's. Right now, buy a Big Mac, 10-piece chicken McNuggets, or a quarter pounder with cheese, and get the second one for just $1. And pair them with one of our frozen drinks, like the new Fanta Blue Raspberry. Price and participation may vary. Valid for product of equal or lesser value. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
From the Wyoming Corporate Office Studio, all day, all week, all the time, on FM 103.9 and News Talk 930 KROE.
Live from everywhere USA, it's Fox Across America with Jimmy Fallon.
Here we go. Comedy alive from the greatest country in the world, broadcasting from the tippy top of the world-famous Fox News headquarters in New York City. It is Fox Across America with Jimmy Fallon, a man who did not do an interview on CNN last night. Joe Biden sitting down for a long talk with Jake Tapper.
I don't remember that ever happening.
But it did, and we'll discuss, along with some bombshell revelations, that Pfizer executives did not test the vaccine for transmission before they brought it to market.
This is total crap.
Yo, it really is. And we're going to get into it on a busy Wednesday episode of the show. Town Hall senior editor Katie Pavlich, KP, dusting off the cowboy boots, walking back into the studio. We will also talk with Democratic strategist Kevin Walling. Kevin Walling, as good of a guy as there is working in this industry, really speaking to the ethos of what makes this show what it is, which is an audio safe space for cool people. We don't care if you're a Republican. We don't care if you're a Democrat. All we ask is that you don't be a 888-788-9910, the phone number, if you can fit those requirements. We don't care what you believe. We don't care who you vote for. I'm not an activist. I'm a talk show host. Like, activism takes energy. You know what I'm saying? You got to, get out, go to rallies. You got to protest. Come on, man. Stop it. I want to watch football. I want to maybe have a beer, drink a beer, eat a couple of wings.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life.
I think it has been a phenomenal way to go through life. So to that point, yes, I am not an activist. I am an old school talk show host. I spent most of my life driving a taxi in New York City. I don't know anything about the White House. I know a lot about Waffle House. Like if you want some recommendations on how to order hash browns, I'm your guy. But if we're really going to fight over how you should vote, I'm telling you, you got other options up and down the dial. Go check them out. When you get done hearing them yell, you're welcome to come right back here to Fox Across America, where we begin after a victorious night up in the Bronx for my New York Yankees. It was a big one for the Bombers. Game 1, 4-1 victory over the Cleveland Indians, or the Guardians.